of the match.
Hey everyone, Simpson2142 here, reporting from the internal pits of Elo Hell. Today we are going to be discussing Symmetra and how well she can fare in a match following her recent changes. Now, just for a brief background, before the most recent patch, Symmetra was the least played hero in competitive play for Overwatch, by quite some margin. And it wasn't so much down to that she was a particularly bad hero, although she wasn't great. It was more down to the fact that she was extremely situational. And that situation was for the first capture point on assault maps or hybrid payload maps. And even then, that was only because of her ultimate ability, the teleport. As when you're defenders trying to hold off the first capture point, you have a spawn disadvantage, meaning that your team has to travel further back to the capture point than the attackers do. Having Symmetra place down a teleporter was a great way to tilt this balance, but this was also an all eggs in one basket situation. Symmetra herself, outside of her teleport ultimate, was not too great of a hero. Her sentry turrets could easily be destroyed, her ability to grant 25 shield was effectively unnoticeable and useless, and her primary fire was extremely short-ranged. So having all that reliability in a teleport was a very high-risk strategy. First, you had to hope your team could hold the first point long enough for Symmetra to even get her ultimate in the first place. Second, once her teleport was up and running, it was often very quickly destroyed. Flankers like Genji, Reaper, Tracer, and more recently Sombra could make very short work of it. But Blizzard had noticed this, and they decided to do something about it in an attempt to make her more viable in more situations. And to do this, they didn't just give her a simple buff, but completely rework certain aspects of her. So let's look at what they changed. First up, they gave her sentry turrets a slight buff. You are now able to deploy all 6 sentry turrets one after the other without any time delay, making it a lot quicker for her to set up defenses pre-round. They also reduce the time it takes for the turret to redeploy after it's destroyed, coming down from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. Second, they gave a small buff to her primary weapon, extending its range from 5 meters to 7, which doesn't sound like much, but my god can her primary do some serious damage. It functions by auto-locking onto the nearest target. The longer you stay locked onto the target, the more damage it does. For the first second, it will deal a measly 30 damage per second. For the next second, that will increase to 60 damage per second, and in the next second, that will jump all the way up to 120 damage per second, and that's not including any damage buffs that you may receive from Mercy or Zenyatta's Discord Orb. Considering that most heroes have a health pool of 200 or below, that is some serious damage potential. It's also worth noting that this damage is held onto so long as the weapon is next used within 3 seconds, meaning that you can quite easily get a set of chain kills off with a well-placed ambush and caught off guard enemies. Third, they completely scrapped her E ability of providing 25 shield to an ally, and replaced it with the ability to produce a photon barrier, very similar to Reinhardt's shield. This barrier can take 1000 hit points worth of damage and will continually move forward at a walking pace until it is either destroyed or the center comes into contact with an object. This barrier has a cooldown of 10 seconds and is certainly a big improvement over her previous ability of granting 25 shield. Finally, and probably the biggest change of them all, was to her ultimate, or shall we now say ultimates. As I record this, Symmetra is currently the only hero in Overwatch to have the option of 2 ultimates, the first being her teleporter, the second being a shield generator, which once deployed will grant all allies 75 shield within a 50 meter radius. That is pretty big, and that also includes going through all walls and objects in its way. Not to mention that both the teleport and the shield generator got a health increase along with some shield health, meaning it can regenerate from small amounts of damage. But the question is, have these changes been enough to bring her back into the fray? Well, yes and no. She certainly is a better hero than she was before, and her new photon barrier and new ultimate ability definitely gives her more potential in more situations, but does it justify picking her over other heroes? If there was only one spot left on your team for a DPS, would you pick Symmetra, or would you say instead pick Soldier? He can be effective at longer ranges, has increased mobility, can provide small healing for the team. Tracer, very mobile, and can easily flank enemy lines, causing high levels of damage and disruption. Or Reaper, like Symmetra, can cause high levels of damage at close range, but he can use his shift ability to get out of tricky situations, and can regain health from dead enemies. Despite Blizzard's best efforts to make her a more universal pick, I still think her best place is on defense, and even then I think it only works on assault style maps which hold tight choke points. Maps like Temple of Anubis, Hanamura, and Eichenwald. This is where her sentry turrets can be focused to deliver maximum damage. Her right click orb thrives on tight spots when enemies are tightly gathered, and if you hit enough of them, your ult can actually charge surprisingly fast. But even on these particular maps, how well Symmetra performs depends how well the enemy team work together. Normally at lower ranks where communication amongst solo queuers is low, Symmetra can easily pick off targets which are trickling in, and because no one is warning each other of her sentry turret placement, she is easily able to do this over and over. But a team that is communicating, though, can easily counter this, either coordinate an attack which is away from her turrets, or summoning a hero like Winston who can wipe out all turrets in seconds. They can also communicate as to where Symmetra is hiding their teleport or shield generator, to which they can send their flanker in to make short work of it, even with its new health buff. And I know there will be some of you out there saying how you can play Symmetra really well, how you can have a high win rate with her, but just ask yourself, would you have still won the round with another hero selected? Would you have even done better and won the round quicker? Just remember that for Symmetra to work well, she does require you having a good team in the first place. If your team is bad and can't hold the defenses, Symmetra's turrets are quickly cleaned up by the enemy, and Symmetra by herself, unlike other DPS heroes as mentioned above, cannot hold her own for long. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this discussion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section where I'm sure we can have an intellectual civil discussion about the matter. Take care.
Score 0-0. Switching sides.